In our last lesson, we made a small introduction to derivable traits. In this lesson, we will examine the debug trait in more detail. The debug trait is typically used to print a value for debugging purposes. This trait, when used in macrocalls such as println or debug, serves to display the value in a readable format in the debug output. First of all, let's start by adding the attribute that we need to integrate as a derivative to our instance type. In our example, we defined a structure of type char and applied the debug trait to this struct. If you try to view it without using this trait, you will get an error. When using it, it is sufficient to derive the struct in the top line that we have defined. In this way, when we print the torque variable using the println macro, we get an output automatically generated by the debug trait. Do not forget to use colons and question marks in the println macro. This means debug printing. The debug trait is very useful for checking and validating values in debugging operations. It also allows us to use pretty printing with the format specifier by adding hashtags instead of debug printing. This way, we can also be used to represent more complex data structures or nested structs. Rust also gives us the opportunity to apply the debug trait manually. While doing this, we will include the FMT module in the standard library with the use keyword. The editor I use will do this automatically. Let's just accept this issue for now. Inshallah, I will give you detailed information about how you will use the libraries in the future. The debug trait in the FMT module is used to format the debug output as we want. Using the write macro, we can print the output in the format we specify. Do not forget to remove the debug expression that we derived above, as we are implementing it manually here. Since we apply the debug trait manually, we can produce output in the format we want. Using it this way can be useful in more complex data structures.